What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about the concept of believing as seeing, and it's something I've heard. I don't know who is attributed with saying that, but I've heard it through multiple different sources and channels. The other thing is just like common knowledge, I guess, in the metaphysical community. But I want to bring that to your awareness and to your attention, because a lot of the programming of the world has to do with recreating the past based on believing or seeing as believing, so getting trapped in the evidences of your senses, which is a classic mistake of the cursed mindset, is to constantly see what's being manifested in the screen of space, in your awareness of life, your perception, and then pointing at it, being like, well, this is reality, then doubling down your belief and experiencing more and more. Most of it is suffering. Most of it is limiting beliefs and assumptions, beliefs of death and decay and like violence and separation and all this kinds of shit that the old cursed mindset loves to point its finger at and go, well, this is why I believe in separation. This is why I believe God is not here. This is why I believe that love is an illusion. All these kinds of things that the old cursed mindset is consciously and unconsciously doing. Part of the concept of believing as seeing, however, is to realize more and more so of like how your inner world gets externalized onto the screen of space. And basically everything in your life, from your marriage to your finances to your health, it's all one thing. It's all an externalization of consciousness, and most importantly, your relationship with God in relationship to all these different things. Because the old mindset, likes to think of God as being separate and out in space somewhere, in like a courtroom or something, with a beard, and there's like a personification that goes on with how we think of our Creator based on our old mindset. But what Jesus was alluding to in a lot of his teachings was that, for one, the kingdom of God is not outside in space somewhere, but it's within. And so if it's within, where is it? And as you start to become more mindful and aware and start to discipline your mind, take your thoughts captive and be transformed by the renewing of your mind, as the Bible would say, you're taking all of these errant thoughts of fear and separation and everything that you believed where God was separate from you and out in space, like doing something to you, like putting sickness on you, putting poverty on you, all this kind of stuff. Not to say that there isn't a metaphysical reason for that. The reason being, and this is where you have to take radical responsibility of what's going on within your consciousness. But when you think of the conscious mind and the relationship with the subconscious mind as being a divine marriage, being connected, where the conscious mind is like the head, where the subconscious is like more like how does the Bible say that? It's like the head being conscious, and then like the subconscious being more female, and it's and not, Mike, what are you talking? Are you talking sexism and shit? It's like it's talking about an energy, but there's a flow to where the subconscious can, maybe this is a better way to say it as I'm rambling, but the conscious mind being selective, where you can choose your thoughts and choose your beliefs and choose your assumptions, where the subconscious mind is non-selective. It's open to anything that your conscious mind believes to be true. And as soon as your emotion and your belief become one, fear is an excellent example of that in a curse state, where you have a thought of danger or separation or whatever, and then you feel the energy of fear because you believe that's actually a threat. That those two becoming one impresses the subconscious mind unconsciously. You don't mean that to do it, but you are doing it, and as a result, that experience will be externalized on the screen of space, and through your perception, you will either confirm that belief and double down on it, like the world does. Look at COVID, for example. It's like, in the face of glaring truth, the tendency is not to be like, oh, I admit I was wrong, and there's something that I made a mistake, but it's, no, I'm going to double down. I'm going to do more of it, and not change direction at all. Double down. And then like to like the more conscious person is like, that's crazy. Why would you take another shot? When the first two didn't do anything. You still contracted this thing. I haven't taken it, and I haven't got it more. I don't get sick. I've been around this, but it's like, well, Mike, those are your beliefs and your assumptions. I guess, well, that's true. And in this format, it's like you're actually kind of allowing me to impress the subconscious mind within you by your own receptivity, because some people will be like, no fucking way, Mike, and then put up the resistance, which is what we're letting go of, so that we can experience the reflection of being blessed, because you are blessed. And part of like the law of assumption is living in the end, which the end is you are blessed, you're connected with God, you are already in heaven. Basically, is like the law of assumption. It's like you embody the promises of God in the here and now. It's like, that's just the way it is. And it's like, well, no fucking way, Mike. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, you're already embodying a state. More than likely, if you've been just suffering, toiling, getting undesirable shit over and over again, more than likely you're experiencing the result of a negative belief, a non-helpful assumption. One of the more powerful assumptions is, nothing's impossible for God to do, and God is within you, so there's nothing impossible for you to do because you are connected. And the more that you see your identity as one not separate and apart from God, but one connected to God through consciousness, then it becomes more and more important to really focus on the concept of believing as seeing, because part of believing and faith, according to the Bible, biblical faith, is the evidence of things hoped for, but but it's just not seen yet. And part of like being an imitator of God, like dear children, is to call things that are not seen as though they were, and then kind of through a bridge of incidents, through this metaphysical principle, be led to demonstrating that for others to see, so that they can realize that they don't have to be in cycles of suffering, of limitation, of like being in states of hell, basically. It's like most people in the unconscious state don't realize that they're creating hell for themselves. Not for some magical future, but for the here and now reality that they're experiencing over and over again. And eventually the suffering creates the urgency to wake up. But for those that are deciding to start to wake up more and more in the here and now by demonstrating these things, by really putting it to the test for others to grow their faith as well, it's important to really start to understand the importance of what we're impressing into subconscious. And another way you could just look at that relationship, because I believe there's only one mind and we all share the subconscious because we're all connected. But you could think of the subconscious as more of the field of awareness that's something you can tangibly become one with as you become mindful and aware of your thoughts. You can start to observe the thoughts, and as you're observing the thoughts come and go, well, then you're merging with the field of awareness that's always watching the thoughts. You can think of that field of awareness as like soil, thoughts being seed, and your faith as like whether or not it gets planted into the soil. And as you do, you plant it, and then you just trust that God will manifest it. You let go of like wanting to dig it up and look at the progress. It'll just cycle back in God's timing. When you embody the state, it'll be reflected back to you. But it's really more about what are you telling yourself in the face of all of these external things happening in your life. Are you saying, oh, I'm a victim? Oh, there's I'm being attacked by Satan. I'm being attacked by some unconscious person, whatever, and letting that belief penetrate your subconscious mind, which then reflects in your relationships with people. Realize that what you think isn't private. That's an illusion of like the old separate mind, that you can just think all these evil things and like these judgmental things, because we're all, we've all been guilty of being harsh, more than likely harsher to ourselves than to others. But even in that, think of how that's impressing the subconscious with what you don't desire. Do you really want to experience more and more so of it? Once you really grasp how important it is to get your mind renewed and thinking in ways that are in harmony with love, which is in harmony with your creator, which is the actual reality and what's true. It's like what's true is you're a masterpiece and that God's in control of everything. There is no accidents or coincidences. You being here is part of this process of this spiritual unfolding of what I believe is just manifesting more and more heaven on earth. But, in doing that, you need people to put it on in consciousness to merge with that belief. And then more and more as people are, it will reflect on the screen of space individually. I think everything is going on in the here and now. And it really depends on where are you focusing your attention? Are you focused on the bottomless pit of fear and despair and hell, basically? Or are you focusing it on heaven and love and good and all that? Because either way, part of the intense part about creation is it doesn't matter what you're thinking. God will reward you with whatever you will reap and sow exactly in correspondence to your beliefs and your assumptions and your identity. And if your identity is one with the body of Christ, one with your creator, one with the family of God, which is the actual reality, you are that, whether you acknowledge, it's like you are already blessed. You can tell yourself illusions and lies that you're cursed and that God hates you and wants you to suffer endlessly. And if you believe that, then, you don't really want to experience that, but then just not understanding how metaphysically this plays out. Well, oh, now there's more drama. Now there's more of this, and it extends too to relationships, where you're talking, the narrative you have about a person, if you're just like in your mind, like, what a fucking idiot. I hate this person. I hope they get their ass whooped or whatever. You're saying that into the subconscious, which then externalizes that. And that person shows up for you in that annoying, difficult way, where you can easily start to go, okay, they're demonstrating a state that is undesirable. They're unconscious. It's like, okay, it's one thing to observe and discern between being conscious and unconscious. It's better to operate under the assumption that everybody's awake, and but there's people that will mirror unconsciousness within your consciousness back to you. And if that happens, well, that's an opportunity to extend forgiveness. What I believe grace is on some level is where you see somebody in a state that they drifted into, and if God brings them to you, it's one thing if they choose to be in that state and enjoy it. It's another if they've drifted into it unknowingly because of their inner conversations and just their upbringing, and it's just it's normal for them to have all this fucked up shit happening all the time and drama. More than likely because their parents had the drama, and it's like we're evolving consciousness. So the more that you are doing this, you don't got to really worry about anybody else. This is what you're doing. How you're speaking and impressing the subconscious mind will externalize and reflect in your individual perception of reality. Everybody's at different levels of consciousness and are demonstrating different levels of awareness. And in that process, we're realizing how the infinite is manifesting through the finite to experience itself. And that's kind of what you're doing too. You're expressing your true self. Everything can be boiled down to, is this really who I choose to be in Christ right here, right now? But the choice is not super difficult. It's really the choice between fear and love. And it's like so much of our old state of being was just fear. We embodied fear. We basically embodied a satanic embodiment with our fear and our separation, our attack thoughts and everything. It's like, no fucking way, Mike, I don't identify with. And it's like, part of like letting go of the old creation that you were is like letting that persona, that identity of being separate, brain and body, just like a worm or whatever. And people have such a low self-worth. It's fucked up. It's like it bothers me on some level that people think so low of themselves, and it's like, really, it's like, okay, I understand that you might have like drifted into a state, and this is where I start to get like, okay, well, what my understanding of grace is like, when people get drawn to you, if they ask specifically, then it's an opportunity to extend healing. If not, it's an opportunity to just when I get someone who's like difficult or annoying or whatever, and it's like, okay, They didn't ask for help. They didn't ask to change. They just wanted to bitch and complain or whatever. It's like I'll still, in my mind, try to key into some noble aspect of them, or some positive aspect, and just focus on that. And a lot of times, the next time that you see them, they'll embody more of that, and even if they don't, there's less of your own mental storytelling going on. Like, oh, it's like that's no longer bothering me. They might still be doing it, but I'm not really bothered by it. It's like I look at it kind of like, oh, a chicken clucks. It's like, oh, it's me not accepting them. They're just like that, and then using that to then extend love, which then simultaneously you can feel it in your own self, which is it's like not irritating, but it's interesting, because it's like there's only a benefit in doing this, but there's a lot of resistance to doing it. It's like exercising. It's like, oh, there's so much like, oh, I don't want to I don't want to swim today, or I don't want to diet today, or I don't want to whatever. But then when you do it, it's like at the end of the day, it's like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. And so, it's like, as opposed to like the I get into this where it's like, all I want to do is just consume media and sit on my ass and fucking be pampered. It's like, do I really want that? Because when I do it, then the next thing you know, I start to spiral, and then I start getting irritated, and I don't actually enjoy it. But I keep thinking, oh, well, if I just had better media to consume, then I could be happy. It's like, no, that's not helpful. But like, when it comes to the concept of believing as seeing, is really understanding that what you impress in the subconscious mind will eventually manifest in the screen of space through a delay. And that delay gets smaller and smaller as you let go of your belief in time and how hard it is and how much of a pedestal you put it on. When you realize that God's the one that draws it to you, that creates the situation, that all you have to do is embody being blessed right here, right now, that there is nothing else to do. It's what's going on in your mind. Is your mind confirming how, like, that you're blessed, you're chosen by God, that you're a masterpiece created by God, that you're demonstrating exactly who God created you to be? Are you thinking like that? Or are you thinking, oh, I need to crucify myself. I need to sacrifice myself, and then that will make God happy with me. And maybe if I just torment myself throughout the day more, then God will be happy with me flagellating myself. And it's like really, you think? From my experience, God's going to reward your thoughts either way. So you can sit there and curse yourself and make yourself suffer and make things difficult and hard for yourself and frustrating and difficult, and really live like a Cleon. Oh, Mike, that's a warrior. And it's like, okay, well, what I'm saying is either way, believing is seeing. So whatever you believe, you will eventually see it in short order. It doesn't take long. It's literally instantaneous if you stop believing in time, and putting it on a pedestal of like, oh, well, if I were to force it through physical means, this is a super complex, complicated thing. But once you realize that God's in control of the how it comes together, like I see it with my business, all the time, where it's like I'll see these synchronistic addresses, my mom, they just bought a rental property from an uncle-in-law, I guess, is 1111 is the address, and it's like they don't see it, they don't see those numbers as being significant, but to me it's just one more flavor of like we're in a dream or something, and the more I kind of like work at impressing the subconscious mind in myself, and doing these and impress it in you, and then you can see it for yourself, and it makes your faith take it up a notch, and you start to realize like, how often am I just believing the evidence of my senses and getting stuck in these loops? But it's like, once you realize it's an illusion, that it's a reflection of mind, well, then you change the mind. You start to impress the subconscious mind with, what does God say is real? The truths of God. It's like, start to impress your subconscious mind with that. And God loves it when you repeat things back, that God's already like in alignment with. It's like, you actually believe that now? Good. Now you can see it. The veil's lifting, and it's like there's a Bible verse about how it's like seeing through a glass darkly, and it's like you can almost look at it too as like getting out of the shower or something, and the mirror's all steamed up. We're looking at ourselves in the mirror, and at one point when we're really entrenched in our old cursed mindset and just believing all the shit from the world that is fucking not real or true, and it verifiably, just by their own shit that gets put out, you can go, well, that logically doesn't makes sense, but the whole thing is a spell. The whole thing is a type of illusion. Not to say that people are bad or anything that participate in media. This is a form of media. It really has to do more so with the people that is listening, the audience, because on some level, it's a co-created thing. It's like part of like doing these, like you also played a role in creating this stream, because we're all connected and we're all kind of working in harmony together to awaken more and more so the being within us, and I think the understanding of the subconscious and the conscious, just how you impress it, and but ultimately the teacher's within you. So there's multiple ways to do this, but there's many subtle things, because we're all different, we're all unique, which is another awesome aspect of creation. Is like the infinite creates all this uniqueness in these finite expressions, all these words made flesh, all these thoughts made manifest, this inner idea made into the outer creation. Like the Bible says we in God we live, move, and have our being. That's very simulation-like to me. And as someone who's seen so many shifts and synchronicities and just like things that are just like manifest in the environment, that's like, wow, that fucking, that's nuts. But it makes me even more in that believing as seeing kind of mode of like, there is multiple parallel realities happening in the present moment, and to start shifting into those. It's not a forward progression in time, it's actually cyclical, and the past changes to align to the new present as you snap out of these cycles of just the evidences of my senses say that. Here's a good example. It's like, as I've been recovering, from my hip surgery, my hip replacement, on the left side, the right side has also been doing a lot of physical therapy. And, since November, so November, December, January, February, March, April, March. So 4 months, so 4 months of recovering. The left side is completely pain free. Every day I wake up, there's more mobility because I've been actively stretching, doing physical therapy, which is how I believe that you actually are able to start getting gains in your body, not so much through the doing, but in the getting like stretching, for example. When you have pain, it's like you get right to the fear barrier where it starts to feel dangerous, and as you face the fear, realize that you're already healed. Your body's already a perfect reflection of consciousness, and it has no willpower outside of God's will. It's perfectly reflecting your identity and your beliefs perfectly, and so when there's something going on with it, you start to heal it in consciousness by realizing that you are one with healing. Healing is normal, natural, and God's the one that does it to you. And so much of like the negative spirals, when I was like before the hip surgery, it was decay. It was like a death spiral, because it was just getting worse and worse. And then my attention would be kind of not on living in the end, but, trying to maintain, hoping that it didn't get worse, trying not to overdo it, all this kinds of shit, all this drama. Well, now realizing, through going through that bridge of incidents, how this healing process is really shifting in every day. It's like an everyday impressing. Where in the past, it was death. Now it's like, I'm getting up every day, feels better and better. There's more mobility. There's more of this. But then in the right side, 4 months of having pain in that side, having the vision that I'm healing perfectly. This is all part of a healing process that I just need to, through the doing on some level. That's going to the real doing is in consciousness, but the physical doing is as a shadow of the spiritual. So I actually feel like, part of the spiritual crown is a little bit like haphazard when it comes to like, oh, just going to take this form off like it's a piece of shit, but the way I look at it is like, well, why do you think that your body is some separate thing? Why do you think God created something that is less than perfect? Well, Mike, your body is just your dry bones or whatever. And it's like, I've heard so much of it, like people just like wanting to destroy their own body and, talking shit about it. But it's like, the Bible says that your body is the temple of God because God is within you and your consciousness. So the form that you wear, are you saying the temple of God is like trash? Some piece of shit? It's like, again, that impresses the subconscious. And God doesn't care what you're saying. It's like, you want it to be a temple? God will manifest it as a temple. You want it to be a worm, some diseased piece of shit thing that you don't appreciate and you're trying to kill. Yeah, okay. It doesn't matter. God's always just like, okay. It's like the infinite doesn't care. It just wants to experience shit, good or bad. It created everything. It created that negative. It created those imaginings just as it created the blessings. Hear, O Israel, or Lord our God is one. Kills and makes alive. It's one thing. It's one power. It's either a curse or a blessing based on how you're using it. And the more that you realize that what you're seeing is a delayed reflection of consciousness, that then you start to realize how believing is seeing, because then you can start to believe in God's healing ability and that you are not separate from the healing because God is within you and you are connected, and you're one with healing because you're one with your creator in consciousness. And then that externalizes as you impress the subconscious. You don't even necessarily need to like fervently believe, but it's like you already fervently believe something. It's either you believe that something that's like non-serving, and you fervently believe that because you just have repeated a thought over and over again. And as you've impressed your mind, your subconscious, the field of awareness goes, there you go. It's a mirror. It's like you don't look in the mirror in the bathroom and want to change the smile that you see, by breaking the mirror. You change yourself, and then the mirror will reflect that. And life is no different. Creation is no different. It's like as you are impressing your subconscious mind with either blessings or curses, as your faith solidifies in one, and like I said, it's the same process either way. Only one leads you down to more and more suffering, where the other one leads you into more and more blessings, using the exact same principle, only not having it be inverted. Where it's like, as you see blessings more and more, then you double down like that way. So it's like when it's a curse, when you're stuck in the evidence of your senses, like, oh, this manifested, so this must mean this little story that who knows where I got it from. Could have two people have the exact same thing manifested, one saying, oh, well, I deserve it, I'm a piece of shit, and the other one just going, God will heal that. Whatever. Who knows? Both will experience the reflection of their consciousness, but, and as they do, it's like the one that thinks it's a terrible thing will double down, and it'll be more of a fucking story, more belief in illness and decay and disease and all this shit, more of a feeling like separate from healing and separate from health, where the other person will be more likely to double down and like the next thing that manifests, if there is a next thing, even more confidence, even more faith. It's all about building your faith, and the easiest and best way is through facing your fear, but ultimately starting to renew your mind, because the fear and the negative, undesirable situations are all a direct reflection of your consciousness. So start believing it first, because then, but like I said, everything is a shadow. But not to say that, and this is another thing I hear in the spiritual community, where it's almost like just because it's an illusion doesn't mean it's not real, because it is a reflection of consciousness. And so it's a reflection of God's consciousness, and we're called to love God with all of our heart, mind, and soul. And that love that we express to God is not being expressed somewhere out in space, but realizing more and more so how we're connected. So I personally believe the more that you love God means that you're loving your subconscious mind. And one of the best ways to share and experience and embody love is, what are you saying? What's the inner conversation? Is that a loving conversation, or is it a fearful conversation? That's something for you to unpack. And as you do, it becomes easier to believe it in. It's like with starting a business. It's like I started a handyman business like 5 or 6 years ago. I had no plan. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just started just following the synchronicity. I was, doing music. I just like wanting to get married to my wife. My wife now. But then, I was like, how am I going to get money? And then as I was like thinking that, next thing you know, I see a help wanted sign at like a landscape place that's really big in the town I live in. I walk in, have a job in 2 days. By the end of the week I started, which then led to learning how, just doing jobs work. And then I was like, hey, I kind of like going from job to job to job, because one of the things that always bothered me is like at a factory, going to the same fucking building, staying inside the whole fucking day. Oh, it drove me nuts. But like, going from job to job, was something new, and I kind of started to appreciate it. But then I started to become aware of like just this inherent skill that I had that I didn't know I had, where I was just like really good at just getting shit done, and like the boss would have me just do all this random shit, just because it's like I just do all this random shit or whatever. And then I started realizing, I was like, well, I could do this by myself with a whole lot more, making a lot more money. And then I got hurt at that job. Ended up having to go take a piss test, and then I smoked some weed like a couple days before, so I was like, well, fuck, I'm not passing this thing. And maybe I did, I don't know. It's like, because I did try to fake it, a little bit by just some means. But like I ended up just becoming, going into my boss's office like later that day and just telling him what was going on and giving my 2 weeks notice and worked 2 weeks. And then but now we're cool. I mean, I even have recently have done some handyman jobs contracted through their business, but it all just worked together. That led to, well, let's try it. And then the rest is history. Just got done flipping a house. And then things are successful, and my family's working for the business, and it's about this inner vision, being able to like, okay, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm just going to trust that God's going to unfold this thing in a perfect way, that God's going to, the customers, all that, start seeing synchronicity, start getting all these repeat numbers, then it's like, oh, I'm provided for. I don't need to worry. This is like God's business. I don't got to worry about, customers or scarcity or what ifs and fears. And it's a process though of growing your faith to the point that you can do that. It's like if you would have asked me 10 years ago, because I was just doing music 10 years ago professionally as like a source of income, and taking care of a family with kids and everything else. I had a lot of anxiety of like money and where it was coming from, but it was through just taking those leaps of faith. It's like, oh, I don't have any of those kinds of fears anymore, because I just know for a fact it's like God provides. It's like water's wet to me. God provides. I don't need to worry about it. And as I don't worry about it, as I just believe that, I've seen it ease, and it's like I'll start to like think of like, oh, what kind of job do I want to do? I want to paint a house or something, work outside while it's really nice. And then next thing you know, I got a house painting job. Oh, it's like, oh, I don't want to do something that was like drywall-y, I just want to do something that is easy. And next thing you know, it's an easy job, easy to work for, customer, whatever. But then you start to realize that how you do one thing, it's all working under the same principle. So it's all really one thing. And you can start to put it to the test for yourself, and hopefully you do. But I think I'm going to bounce. I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. Appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Thank you for that. Donation link in the description. Oh, Mike's begging for money again. It's like, okay, well, if you're in total scarcity, I don't want anything from you. So it's like some people find joy in giving, and that's who I'm talking to. But with that being said, I hopefully Something else. Oh yeah, I appreciate your attention for this long. Hopefully, I was strengthening on some level for your consciousness, that you feel better, more energized on some level, and yeah, you could be anywhere in time and space, and you chose to be here, and I appreciate it. And till the next now, God bless.